Welcome back, everybody. We're here. It's a top five.
Yeah, we are.
Booker T would say.
It is crazy how fast this year ended, but also how much stuff happened in the wrestling world this year. We thought last year was pretty crazy, and it got even crazier this year with all the stuff going on. So,
I feel like this year was more. Granted, definitely something crazy happened. A couple things
yeah,
crazy, but I
yeah,
felt like it was a lot in the ring, right? Like a lot of it compared to last year. We had like people
some of it.
walking out. Yeah, some of it. Don't get me wrong. Compared to last year, we had people walking out. We
Mhm.
had people, all types of allegations. We had people getting suspended. We had people. This year, I mean, you go through our list. Just to kind of like quick recap of the list. Number 20, Becky Lynch wins the NXT Championship. Number 19, MJF defeats Bryan Danielson 60-minute Ironman match. Number 18, Adam Copeland debuts AEW Wrestle Dream. Number 17, RIP Jay Briscoe. Number 16, Seth Rollins wins the World Heavyweight Championship at Night of Champions. Number 15, Mercedes Moné debuts at Wrestle Kingdom. Number 14, Judgment Day grabs all the gold. Number 13, the Usos turn on the Bloodline. Number
Yeah,
12, Rey Mysterio and Dominic's unforgettable feud culminates at WrestleMania. Number 11, NXT wins the Tuesday Night Wars against AEW. Number 10, Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley clash at WrestleMania 39. Number 9, Randy Orton returns to Survivor Series War Games. Number 8, Bad Bunny brings it at Backlash in Puerto Rico. Number 7, AEW All In sells over 80,000 tickets. And
yeah.
number 6,
I saw
at
that.
number 6, AEW Jade Cargill signs to WWE. Listen, I'll say this. Top five spots, kind of AEW. There's one AEW thing related. I'm not sure if it's anything positive for them, but it's definitely an AEW thing. We'll talk about AEW at some point during this list, but it's nothing positive for them. But I also feel like I want to get your quick POV. Like, what are kind of like the honorable mentions, the things you remember from this year that maybe we didn't talk about on the list, but probably should, or at least worth a mention, an honorable mention.
I think something that jumps out to me is Impact going back to TNA. I know that was kind of like a you know PR marketing type move, but that was a I mean everyone got excited about it. I think TNA
Hey,
kind
hey,
of
some
around this year.
companies not even doing that. Some companies not even doing no PR marketing type moves with their
Yeah.
rebranding of products. You know what I'm saying? ROH is still ROH. ROH is just like ROH, but not dead. Um,
ROH for sure needs a fucking a reboot. And that's like a conversation, like a larger conversation we should have one day about what to do with that.
we can have it on the A show. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe it
we could.
happened already on the A show this week.
Um Another one that I think a lot like that we missed is the MLW lawsuit with WWE. It was also a
Mm,
that was pretty notable. Um, I think that coming out of All Out in Wembley, obviously all eyes were on Punk, but I think that also within that show, you had not only like the sellout crowd or the crowd that was there, but you also had
it, they sold tickets to
but I mean,
Wembley.
you also had that main event. I think that that's another big moment in the year is the MJF main event at Wembley. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the
Mm.
AEW moments he is involved in, and I think that was a career moment for him to main event that show.
Can I an honorable mention I would have, and actually Dion brought this up to me recently. The rise of Trick Williams. I was
Mm,
out on Trick Williams. I
yeah,
was not out, but like I was like, you talking all the talk, but you're not walking the walk. Like the skills
yeah,
hadn't improved. 2022, the skills hadn't improved enough to me where I would see like he was having the good matches. But I feel like rubber met the road in this occasion and he rose to the opportunity. Like there's
yeah.
clearly an opportunity for him facing Wesley earlier this year, having that feud himself, winning the North American Championship against against Dominic Mysterio, very brief. But it's a I feel like the rise of Trick Williams, I feel like we're seeing the birth of another, which is I mean it's not that thing because NXT is doing what it's doing. It's developing. It's
Yeah,
developmentally. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So that's no like big like thing, but like another
We never
star in the
thought that.
making.
We
Yeah.
we I remember saying in our Discord and many other places, like, "He gotta show me something," because I think that, you know, I just wasn't seeing a lot of what, you know, a lot of other people were seeing with Trick, and I think that that had nothing to do with his talking ability, but you know where that kinda
Mhm.
shifted? It was a Dragunov match that he
Absolutely.
had, and after that Dragunov match, like, you know, he's taken so many people to good matches this year, but Trick was the only one that kinda continued that whole thing, and then you had the stuff at Deadline, obviously, but, I mean, even before that, the storyline stuff, the character stuff that he's putting over has been
Mhm.
fantastic, and you know, a lot of that goes to creative, but I also wanna put a lot of the support and the, you know, the selflessness on Carmelo Hayes. As a top guy in that brand, he didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? But having Trick his own foil, we would have thought that they would have been together forever. But they're like, "No,
Right.
the only way that you can get better is if I kind of go to the side here and you become a bigger star." And I think that it hasn't hurt Melo at all. It's only helped. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think another honorable mention I had, which, you know, I'm talking from the AEW perspective. I'm doing my best to be essentially this non-biased thing. Um, except Swerve. I will not talk about Swerve. Fuck that guy.
Mhm.
But I think Orange Cassidy, his year is worth noting for that streak that he had of the matches that he had. And I think he was I mean, until AEW does the thing where they're like all behind somebody and then they do that thing where they like pretty much pull
They're
the rug
hot.
from under them and
Yep.
then they're on Rampage for like 4 weeks. To me, he was someone who I felt like had a very natural build and could have been an AEW World Championship contender. Like for this December pay-per-view coming up, I could see him headlining that pay-per-view, even being international champion, right? AEW again, they do the thing, they kind of pull the rug from under him um with the
He's kinda
Moxley
cooled off.
thing.
Kinda cooled off a little bit, I think, toward the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's not, to me, it's not like effort withstanding. I think it's creative withstanding. I think
Mhm.
it's just the opportunity's not necessarily there. He had his matches with Moxley, and then did he get hurt or did Moxley get hurt?
Moxley got
Moxley got
hurt.
hurt.
Yeah. He
He
had
got
to drop the
concussed.
title. He had to drop the title to somebody that didn't need to win the title, and then he pushed everything back because he had to beat Phoenix or somebody for the title right after that, and you know how AEW do. It just we still gonna do what we gonna do. We just gonna make sure his,
Yeah.
brain not leaking out his ear, or maybe it could leak out his ear. Maybe his eye could be out. We're still gonna do it. Who cares?
It's an I thought his year was notable. Another thing that kind of this year, I mean, I think a lot of the supporting talent on both rosters have had an exciting year in WWE. I'm looking towards American Alpha
Yo, I was just
consistently
gonna
on
say yeah.
consistently on television, consistently entertaining, consistently having great matches. I look at like a Logan Paul who's come into his own this year and looks like to be a full-time actual wrestler now at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's quit his money gig and now he's doing it full time.
Yeah, I
Um
mean, the mid card returned in 2023. You know, we had an actual mid card that's from the women, especially in WWE. I think AEW's women are they're just all the mid card, right? That's just there's no main event women there. But I think in WWE, especially TNA
do,
Impact, I think you know. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, do you think Gunther has a major part in that mid card kind of like rising up or at least kind of returning? I feel like it's a him being this like stalwart champion who remains and people rise to the occasion against him,
Yeah,
brought out a lot of amazing performances that we never expected from people. I'm talking about Chad Gable, The Miz, Bronson Reed,
Champa.
kind of, yeah, Champa, everybody. Like
Yeah.
even
I
he go ahead.
he he's someone with a mid card title, and I'll put quotes there with main event look. and vision and feel. So
Right.
anyone that faces off against him gets that rub because in all intents and purposes, if the champion ain't on the show, he's the champion of that show, and you feel like that. You feel that. You know what I mean? Like I think that he's kind of right. You know, rising tide raises all boats. You know what I mean? Everyone has risen to the occasion, and from that, he's helped get the mid card, you know what I mean, acts over in that sense, where it's like you had that really dope, what was it, like a 4-way match with like Bronson and Ivar and Miz and Ricochet. That was a crazy match that was like where I was like, yo, they really got a mid card here. Like these people like all face off against each other. And I think like what they've been able to do there in particular, and the same thing with AEW is attempt to legitimize people through having, you know, really good matches that are competitive, but also having a strong champion that shows up every single week and to do that with.
Absolutely. And with that said, I mean, with the company kind of like evolving and changing, I think it's time we get to number 5 on our list. Um, this is the biggest, probably the biggest move. Somehow it's number 5, but this is one of the biggest moves in probably the company history. Number 5 we have here: Endeavor buys WWE, forms TKO Group. Endeavor, WWE, UFC, the true axis of evil. Um,
Jesus.
it's a, I know, right?
The way that this was, we were walking out of Mania when this was night one. This is the Mania night one.
Yeah,
We were walking out, and I looked at my phone, and I said, "Oh fuck, they sold." And I said, "But you know what? Walking into Mania at SoFi, I said, this is a company that wants to get bought right now." Because just all the stuff they had, the commercials that people hated, I said that's a clue. The look, the feel of the show, I said, yo, there's no way this company is gonna not be owned by someone next year. When I walked in
can I,
there this year,
can I tell you the MVP of this entire thing? And I think you know who it is.
and my boy Nikki,
It's Nick Khan. I
yeah,
think Nick Khan was the game changer that this need. I think ever since Nick Khan came into the fold, WWE's strategy in terms of like how do we make this company more valuable to be able to sell it at this rate? Because to be honest with you, with people are selling their masters, people are selling their stakes, there's value in selling your IP at this current point. And it may be this may be the window, to be honest with you. It might not be as valuable. You have no idea what other kind of like world economic things that can happen in the future where things are just not going to be as valuable anymore. If there is a time to sell, it's now. We're selling the A show
and
pretty soon. No, I'm kidding. Uh,
yeah, we're going to. I don't know. We're going to Blue Chew anyway. What was ill about the whole thing, right? Was the rumors before it. Remember that? Like it was supposed to be. Remember it was a done deal. They sold to Saudi Arabia. It was a done
Saudi
deal.
Arabia.
It was
Oh
happening.
no. What was that a
Then,
tweet? It was like, if I'm
yeah,
hearing.
and then Sean Ross Sapp goes over and he's just like, I did not hear anything like that, y'all. Like y'all don't need to be running with this rumor. Like this is actively dangerous that y'all are saying this right now because you could be messing up, you know, business deals and stuff like that. Like everyone, remember that day on Twitter, or that night rather on Twitter, everyone was about to legitimately like going down with the ship. Dun, dun, dun. Like
Right.
what?
But here's the thing, and maybe it's because of our knowledge of just kind of like outside the wrestling bubble things. The
Mhm.
one thing we've said on this podcast is that if WWE sells, you're not going to hear it from wrestling media.
Yes.
That's not going to be the
Yes.
first place you hear it. And
Because you know
sure as
why? The sources, wrestling media sources, are not the people in those rooms. That's just the
right.
long and short of it. They're not those people. It's not Triple H telling these people these things. It's not Nick Khan. So that rumor happens, and then we get like kind of like the kibosh on it, where just like Nick Khan just comes out and says, it's not happening right now. It was Comcast was in the business for it. Disney was being talked about. Everyone was being talked about in terms of getting WWE. Endeavor was always that. Remember, Endeavor was always that third kind of option where we're just kind of like, Someone even said like they don't got the money to do it. Somebody's just like, they don't don't really know if they got the money to do it. They don't seem interested. Endeavor was always kind of in the shadows, and I think that whoever was like putting the smoke screen up was actually like they were great for doing that. They were doing like the best PR for that because nobody suspected that it was Endeavor until the last minute. And then like the percentages went up as Mania came up, and they said that remember they were like the deal could be done, you know, by after Mania and night one. You imagine walking out night one, that fucking dopamine you got from seeing Sammy and KO, and then they motherfucking sold the company.
They sell the company right there, or they announce it rather. It was a perfect, again, Nick Khan moves, baby. This is him playing all types of different chess, Chinese chess. You know what I'm saying? Like this is this is him pulling every different kind of move out there. With this sale, what changes do you think that we've seen, and what changes do you expect to come?
We've already seen a lot of the changes. We've seen I know a lot of people hate this. The advertisements, you know what I mean? Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Tostito, no.
Crunch.
I said Tostitos. They might be next. Mountain Dew obviously was that was before Endeavor, but like you see a lot of it happening now. The tax, Inuit tax, and stuff like that. Like they are about branding every side of WWE. That was what they were missing was that they weren't brand worthy. They weren't brandable, and now they're trying to show companies that you can put your logo on our stuff, and we have the highest ratings of any wrestling show. We got the highest attendance. They can boo all they want. Someone went on their phone and went to Inuit tax and said, I need to get my taxes done. Somebody went to the store and got some pitch black. Somebody went to the store and motherfucking, you know what I mean? Got some Cheez-Its or whatever the hell they're selling. It always works. It's always about the return on that investment. But in terms of changes to come, I mean, we're seeing a lot of it. Global. It's global. I don't think there's going to be a PLE in America for a couple months next year. We went through a string this year in the summertime where there was no PLE in America until SummerSlam.
We went to Puerto Rico. We went to the UK. Where else did we go?
Saudi Arabia. We've gone
Saudi Arabia.
We've gone everywhere. And now next year, Australia, Belfast. There's rumors of all types of other places. Like India is another rumor that they're gonna. Well, they did India this year. They did India. And I mean, it's about making this a global brand, and that's just something that not many people can do, not many companies can do, or say that they have the power to do. And I think that's like a huge boom. But I think just in terms of personnel and talent, they got the money to get better talent. They got the money to retain and re-sign the talent that they have. A lot of people are coming up in 2024. Perfect timing. TV deals coming up. We've seen Becky's deal is coming up. We saw
less house shows.
That to me could be, if the financials come out right, I think that if they're all making more money, I think that just flat without me doing any research, I think that would be a better thing because they just won't have to travel as much. If the workload gets lighter because they're traveling so much out of the country, I think that's a bigger advantage. But financially, if they see the house shows aren't making money, I mean, this is different. You know what I mean? Like this is a different company that they just might cut them. What do you think about that?
I think, I mean, the house show thing is a very special case. Like that's always been how wrestlers feel like they've been making money. But if WWE has new sources of revenue, different sources of revenue, TV deals, streaming deals, branding deals, marketing deals, sponsoring deals, all this other stuff. I mean, merch, they'll probably do other, I mean, they're with Fanatics now doing a lot of collaborations with them. Who knows what else might, come to boot. You know what I'm saying? You remember the what was the athleisure brand that they had back in the day when they thought they were doing something?
Tap Out.
Tap out.
Yeah.
Come on. We need Nike. We need Adidas. That's the big
play. That's the big play. I think if it makes sense for the talent, I think that sure, we maybe less house shows make sense, but I think that if it doesn't make sense for them financially, that might be a problem. You know what I mean? But a lot of these people are getting new deals. This might be a problem for those lesser talent that might not be on new deals or might not be featured as much. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like those opening matches that feature people that aren't really on TV as much or are coming like somebody like 4K, Karrion Kross, who's not always on TV. You look at house show, he's always on house shows. You know what I mean? Like that might be the way that they get money. So again, we'll have to see if that makes sense for them financially, but that's a big change for Endeavor. I think that when we look at Mania in Philly, the first Endeavor pay-per-view, the first Endeavor Mania or whatever, I mean, I don't know what to think of what's going to happen. They're going to take
It's
over Philly the same way they took over LA.
it's weird. Now we're looking at it from a standpoint of like, how does this make money for Endeavor as a whole, right? Instead of
Yeah.
like just WWE. It's that acclimation to that process, because it's not only WWE, it's UFC as well. UFC, the whole TKO group. Like, how does this tandem together make that money? How do they, as combat sports collectively, change the game? They've got a lot of competition. It's still, as much as there's NBA, there's MLB, there's NHL. There's a lot of competition out there in terms of like rights, the people's eyeballs, all these other things. How does WWE land that? I think their branding. I could see by 2027 WWE really be like considering where the branding thing is going, and because we've seen so many. My thing is like, and I know this is a crazy concept, but like I look at where Pokemon was back when we were a thing and where Pokemon is now. Pokemon is a standalone brand. It's practically its own word. And I think they're trying to make WWE like, when you talk about wrestling, you really mean WWE.
It's already kind of like that, but you mean like putting it like to rest, like a big WWE title belt float at the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like Roman Reigns
Nelly.
Roman Reigns battle buddy. You know what I'm saying? At the parade, like it could happen because you mentioned MLB, you mentioned NBA, you mentioned NFL. Those end. Those have endings. Every June, every February, every October. Those end. WWE never ends. And I think that to me is the most, they never looked at it that way 10, 15, 20 years ago, but post-COVID, they're looking at it that way. And I think that that's where Endeavor could get those really good TV deals. Because again, as we kind of wrap up this point, the TV deal is still not signed as of us doing this recording. And naturally, as always, it could fucking happen 2 minutes after we hit stop on this. But as of this recording, they haven't done it yet. So there's still one more big joker that we haven't been able to talk about with what Endeavor's done. They've re-upped SmackDown on USA.
Right.
They put NXT on CW. Raw is the last shoe to drop, and then in I think 2 years, Peacock will be the next one with the network. The network could be gone somewhere else in 2 years.
Yeah.
So we don't know yet.
Listen, a lot of big changes. Speaking of that WrestleMania weekend, we talk about that transition from night 1 to night 2. That night 2 was a banger because night 2 comes in at number 4 on our list. It is the shocking moment that ended WrestleMania. Roman Reigns defeats Cody Rhodes. It was, we sat here for our prediction party and we said, it's time. I don't give a fuck about no 1,000 days.
Yeah.
We don't need to hit that. Like, what does it matter? Little did WWE know it was like 1,000 days. Of course, we're hitting that. Sunday comes. The match happens. Big Solo comes in the frame. And it's pretty much, it ended the way everything ended. And Cody Rhodes not able to finish the story as of yet. Right. You're kind of like real raw feelings in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
What are your real raw feelings in that moment? I mean,
I've said this a lot of times. Okay, I've rewatched this match since I saw it live more than any match that I watched this year. I've rewatched this match about 10, 15 times. I love this match a lot. I think it's a great match. I think watching it live also enhanced my feelings about it because I kind of got a different feeling in there.
Right.
But I tell you what,
The swell
I
in the
tell you
room.
what. I tell you what. When Roman had the orchestra opera out, I looked at my wife and I said, Roman never gets a special entrance. I texted her plus I said, Roman never gets a special entrance. I said, what are we doing here, guys? Should we be sitting down right now? Never gets
Maybe
a special entrance. Meelz, he never does. Some people will look at that as maybe he'll lose. I looked at it as I don't think that Cody's gonna win that much no more. So the match is happening. I think that the match was perfect in so many ways, and I don't want to like. I feel like we're getting into top, best match of the year territory here in terms of just like me talking about this match. I think that the way that they built it was perfect, and I think that it's the perfect encapsulation of subverting your expectations that doesn't happen very often in wrestling. And usually they
right,
try and do that with a hometown person losing. This wasn't it. This was not. People looked at the Roman thing as the end of the story when really we needed to look at it as the beginning of the Cody story, because we didn't really, you know what I mean? Like it was the beginning of the Cody story. It wasn't actually that yet. So when I saw Solo and where I was sitting, you could see somebody in a black hoodie run across. I saw where he ran out.
you can't miss that
And
thick man running across that damn thing.
he was Meelz, he was running fast. He was running
He's
fast as
Samoan,
shit.
baby. He's Samoan. They all run fast.
He got up there. He did it. Everyone around me was flabbergasted. No, we were all. I called you. We talked to each other. I said, what? Who's gonna beat this nigga? It was anger.
There's two moments ever this year that we literally had called each other after it happened. One of them's coming up, but this is definitely one of them.
I'm walking out of SoFi like I don't know, Meelz. I don't know.
And I was just like, why? And here I am on the other phone. Why? Why did this happen?
Why? Who's gonna beat him now? And then as I sat and I was like, oh,
because you talk yourself into things. You'll talk yourself into things. You're like,
yeah, here's my thing. I don't get too emotional. You know me. Like I don't get
of course.
I'll be upset for a second, then I'll be like, oh, okay, I can see why they might have did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think really the real conversation is the discourse after, right? Because the discourse after was insane for 24 hours. It was just the craziest discourse you've ever seen, because it was like they ruined Cody. They've destroyed him. He is not a character anymore. He's done. He's finished. This is payback for his AEW run. And I just wasn't. I think at that point was when I kind of not talked myself out. Was that when I was like, no, they wouldn't. The way that they've been booking this guy, he's still. When I walked out of SoFi, his music was playing. People were still hitting the whoa. People were still chanting the song. And I texted you and I said, I don't think he's done. He's still over. They're still chanting his song. They want to see him win. And then Raw happens. And that was, to me, the beginning of that second arc of the story.
Yes,
I don't
it's definitely
and I don't want to dig too deep into the actual like match stuff, because I know we're going to talk about this match a lot later. So
yeah. I still feel like generally this was a great moment. Again, subverting everyone's expectations. You think but you really have no idea. Kind of building up to this crescendo. To be honest with you, let's look at this way. There could have been an option where Cody won, and it would have still been fine. Do I think we get to, especially knowing Triple H, and hashtag this is my knowing Vince, knowing Triple H, knowing H, he plays the long game. We've seen with Roman's championship reign,
Shayna.
seen with Gunther's championship reign, Shayna, he plays the long game. He waits for the moment. He waits for that moment where you truly hit the crescendo, and you're able to really explain all of this that's kind of going on all at once. If you
don't get this, think about everything that branched from this finish.
Talk
Everything.
about it. Brock.
No, further back. Usos lose night 1. Roman wins night 2. Oh, we thinking Friday. Oh, wait. The Usos lost and Roman won. Then you get, if you out, I'm out too. You get that. You get
Right.
that moment. You get
You
that
get
match.
Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns for the first time in over 1,000 days.
You don't get that without this. Think of how much good stuff came from something that we might not have liked in that moment. And Triple H said it in that press conference after, the story's not over. Y'all thought it was over, but
Right.
it's not over. Paul Heyman says we're in the 3rd inning. It ain't over yet. To be fair, I think this story has slowed down, but there's been other stories that have been in its place. Obviously, nothing's going to beat, and we're going to talk more about Bloodline stuff. Nothing's going to beat the 2022, 23 run of this story. But what came out of that was so many stories that branch out into in crews that were allowed to move up in the game because of, like everything felt and everything feels like it comes from this moment in WrestleMania.
Right.
After this Cody loss, including Cody's story.
I want to talk about Roman Reigns' reign this year. It has not been as eventful as last year's, but I still think it's been very, very intentional with the things that have been done.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about everything pre-WrestleMania pretty soon. There's no spoiler alert, but spoiler alert. But everything post, I mean, the Usos kind of like story and him helping ascend Jey Uso to literally a main event star. The LA Knight moment where, LA Knight, another rising star in this thing. He's putting him in the ring with this. It's not a lot of, to be honest, it's not a lot of moments, but still cinema.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think everything is very intentional in terms of the build to breaking down Roman. We talked about the decline of the bloodline. We said it began at Royal Rumble. The breakdown of Roman Reigns, it has started already, and it started with his family.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to continue with his family. I'm sure Solo will have something else that he needs to do, or it'll continue after WrestleMania. But it's starting, and you're building to this moment now where you want to see the cracks in real time. You want to see them hairline cracks. You want to see the pressure that's really put under Roman to say, like, okay, now he's losing the championship. Not when he's losing when he's at the top and seemingly impenetrable, and then you're kind of like questioning, well, I guess he is mortal now I think about it.
But he's only mortal to his family so far.
Yeah, essentially. But you're seeing them cracks, you're seeing everything that goes on, and to be honest with you, 2024, does the story finish in 2024?
We'll have to see. I think signs point to it. I think there's many key players there that would lead to it or could lead to it. I mean, you're not going to hear a bigger scream from me than when KO came out. You know what I mean? Like that was the moment, but I think there's more. I think there's a lot of people that want to see Roman lose, and I think Cody's making the campaign right now as we speak.
I think this build from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania is going to be legendary. Like, I think everything, I'm predicting callbacks, I'm predicting appearears, I'm predicting the end of Attack on Titan is what I'm predicting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this was part 1 this year. Maybe we got to wait for the dub for part 2. That's me. So,
absolutely.
That's what's happening with us. Season 4 long. Season 4 very long.
This is very, very long, but we're gonna get there nonetheless. So that was number 4 on our list. Number 3, a little bit more somber, but I think this is something that also rocked the wrestling world. We talked a little bit earlier about the passing of Jay Briscoe and what that kind of meant to the overall wrestling community as well. Wrestling also suffered another major loss this year in Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, his return was definitely one of our top moments of the year last year. just by virtue of like it felt like, especially under this new regime, that again I use the word intention with how he's moving. It felt like it was a little bit more intentional instead of like kind of scare the kids. To be honest with you,
Mm.
you saw Bray Wyatt talking, you saw him walking, you saw him interacting. He's still doing a lot of these things. There's still the mystery behind him, which I think he loves. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it seemed like he was moving with much more purpose, to the standpoint of like maybe we don't do these things where it's like Universal Championship, he's losing to Goldberg. Universal Championship, he's losing to this guy. Like it ends to a means in some sort of way.
Let him have his own thing. He had his
Yeah,
thing. He was having his own thing. You know, we mentioned LA Knight, last guy to feud with him. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that, which is gotta be heavy for him. But um I think, and we did a breaking news show for this. Just raw feelings about you know what was going on with us as it happened. I think Bray Wyatt is somebody that even if creative didn't quite gel or mesh with what he was doing, even if we didn't quite get it, he for sure had the fans and the clout to really transcend wrestling. You saw so many people say RIP to him because he had touched them. And it's like you don't even see how far reaching just one character in WWE can have until you get to him. And
right.
it's still shocking that this is on this list. It's still shocking that it happened. It's still shocking that we won't ever see him again, and we won't ever get to see. We won't be able to
That's
say
crazy.
we won't be able to say WTF to anything he does anymore. You know what I mean? And I think that as much as like we you know we've always looked at his segments and just kind of been like, how are we going to talk about this? I mean, even this year, it's like think about this year. It's like, hey, Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, whoever wins, I got next, and then it did not happen. You know what I mean? Like just stuff like that. Like you know, it's just like he's always been an enigma. It's always been some of the strangest, but also the most talked about things that you could have here on in this company and in this business. I mean, Bray Wyatt transcended so much, and there is never ever going to be somebody like him again. You know what I mean? Like they're just can't. His mind is just like you can't have that. You know what I mean? No one has his mind. You know what I mean? He was a genius in so many ways of just how he presented himself, pushed his ideas, and I mean, this is one character that we could say Meelz had like 4 or 5 iterations in the past decade of himself.
Yeah,
It was all him.
he was beloved. It was personally he was definitely beloved, and I think as a character he was also respected, and people love this. I think his creative mind extended like kind of like no one else's, which I can kind of say.
Mhm.
He had the creative liberty with a bunch of his characters and the things that he did that no one else could pull off. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
um, it came super unexpected. Um, I think there's still a lot of feelings regarding it. I think there's still the WWE machine moves on, but I definitely do think that there's a hole from a storytelling aspect because of it.
yeah.
And it also it feels like a hole because it was a story that's unfinished. Um, we kind of really saw him pass through the other side and kind of like building something that was expected to work. I mean, days before it, we saw reports like they're working on new Bray Wyatt creative. Something new is going to happen. That's why we hadn't seen him on TV for months. And then we also learned that he was um,
Sick.
suffering from an illness as well. Yeah. Um, that ultimately, I mean, led to his passing. And, you know, it's just a major loss. Um, for the company, major loss for his family, JoJo and his kids and everything like that. Like you know, Bray Wyatt was one of one. Um and yeah, it's a major loss, but he left a major resounding impact on the business over the last number of years. And he's number 3 on our list.
Yeah.
Um
RIP to Wyndham.
RIP. Absolutely. Number 2 on our list, arguably I think was number 1 until something happened recently.
Yeah.
um I would say if you marked everything the first half of the year, this is a shoe in for number 1. I mean,
Absolutely.
he,
It was
he
my
was the
number 1
moment.
until 3 weeks ago.
He was on a rocket to the moon. And I think he's tapered off a little bit, but I still think ultimately, like this year, this is the year that you dream of. These are moments that you dream of. Number two, Sami Zayn turns on the bloodline. The honorary Usos no more. Sami Zayn is truly like he lives, he breathes, he everything in his way. Royal Rumble 2023. The
Great
chair
show.
shot heard around the world. Listen, very rare you get a 20-minute cutscene at the end of your pay-per-view.
Yeah. I was like, when they gonna cut? when they gonna cut?
Listen,
I mean,
as we learned with most bloodline things, they never cut. They had a 40-minute segment at MSG that took up
yeah.
40 minutes of the show. They never cut. But
I think that I was watching Rumble with Pat, my friend Pat, this year, and we watched like that hour-long men's Rumble, and I'm like, how could it get better than this? I think when we walked into Rumble, it was sold as kind of like Sammy will make the final choice, or Sammy's final mission, or his final it was some final about what he had to do, final decision or final choice or something like that. Me and you, we're
right.
looking at the Kevin Owens match like they've had great matches before. It is what it is. And to be
I don't
fair,
even think I don't even
do
think
you
they
remember?
cared about this match that much. No,
Yeah.
but I don't think I think Kevin Owens himself knows. I mean, at this standpoint, he's faced Roman so many times at this point, and he's either
Yeah.
at this iteration, he's just going to lose every time. But I
Yeah.
think they knew that this was a piece of the story to ultimately get to where they eventually got to.
Mhm.
Um,
And Roman needed something to do for 3 months.
yeah,
Essentially.
essentially. So this was just part of the story. I mean, there was no intention for Kevin Owens to win this thing at all.
Yeah.
But the intention for him to be brutalized at the end of the show and Sami Zayn to really like kind of like, yo, what we're doing is wrong. And Paul Heyman had this incredible podcast with Rick Rubin and talked about why the Sami Zayn arc, the Honorary Us arc of things resonated so much. And it was because of the feeling of acceptance.
Mhm.
And everyone at some point has wanted the feeling just to feel accepted in some sort of situation. And people really saw themselves in Sami Zayn up against his bloodline. He's someone who doesn't look like them, he doesn't act like them, but nonetheless, he's being accepted by his group. But what happens when this acceptance and you see it for the first time and it's like, I don't like this, is ugly, like this is nasty. Like you get to see it in 4K, you get to see it up close, and it's not what you expected it to be.
Mhm.
That is what happened at the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble, they pinned, I mean, they handcuffed Kevin Owens to the things, and they told Sami Zayn, it was like, listen, if you're gonna be in this gang, you're gonna whoop your friend's ass. All right. Do it.
I wouldn't whip your
Um,
ass. I would make the same decision as
you
Sammy
know,
make.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. The bloodline allure is very,
Yeah.
it's very attractive, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you wouldn't
Hey,
bash my head in with a steel chair. Um
Solo's feet stink, so easy to say. Never smelled your
I
feet.
was like, I can't have the best shoe game in the group. This just can't
Yeah.
happen.
Great.
So Sami Zayn eventually he smashes Roman Reigns with the chair.
No,
Is this
before
moment?
that, there's a lot that happens before that, Meelz.
I mean,
He
bro,
stops him.
with the
He
interest of
stops
time.
him. He
Go ahead,
stops
go
him,
ahead.
and the
Replay
crowd
it.
says, "Oh shit!" And then he gets in his face, and he's like, "Is he crying? Is he crying?" And then Paul Heyman says his famous line, "There's no crying in wrestling." He says, "There's no crying in wrestling." And then he goes over and he hits him with the chair. And then you see Jay's face, you see Roman's face, you see uh Jay, you see everyone's face. You see Sammy's face. Who's the first person to kick it off? Jimmy is the first person to super kick Sammy. And at that point, it's over. The super kick ends a lot of like things in the bloodline. You got to get super kicked out.
It's very symbolic. I mean, they're really taking the super kick to a new level compared to
Yeah.
what we've seen over the last decade.
They
Um,
they beat the hell out of Sammy. Roman starts crying. I'm like, Roman's turned it up to 11. Roman starts crying. You ruined my family after Jay walks out and stuff like that. Like there's a lot that happens there within that moment. And at that point, you think that we're seeing the fall of the bloodline, but it's like that was just the Sammy was the
Well, the Jay walking out thing, the Jay being conflicted about the entire thing
yeah.
was an amazing touch considering his past history.
Yeah, because he had just defended him a week before. You know what I mean? He had just stopped, and even the trial. Oh my god, everything was perfect leading into this moment. And I think what makes this moment even more perfect is that there was to the crowd. There's no words. They got to see it pantomime. They didn't hear anything, and they reacted as if they were hearing every single thing because it was a story told through bodies. It was a story told through violence. It was a story told through emotions, and they perfectly captured that in a night that saw Cody win number one, Rhea win, win the Rumble. Cody wins the Rumble, Rhea wins the Rumble. Emotions were already high that night. No one was expecting this. I don't think we expected this at all. We just expected that. Did we think this was? We didn't think this was gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Cinema in real form? No.
Yeah, no, like this is the moment when people call cinema. It's also the moment that so many other companies tried to replicate this year. Even this own company, even this particular company tried to replicate, but it led to such a great moment for Sami Zayn. And not going to get into whether they cut that moment short or not. The story was and always was Cody's story.
Right, but the thing is, it was Cody's story leading into WrestleMania, but Sami eventually got his ending to the story. Like, so one of my favorite moments is the SmackDown after the Royal Rumble, where Roman is trying to like parse through what's exactly going on. He doesn't have Jay with him. There's only Jimmy with him and stuff like that. And Sami Zayn comes through the crowd, hood on. He spears Roman. He kind of like makes his intention known as like, listen, I'm my own man at this point. I got to do what I got to do. And it's the build to Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber's in Montreal. It's Sami Zayn hometown. The swell for this felt Mania-like. That's how it felt. It felt similar to Bryan, Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan leading into WrestleMania 30. It felt that same energy, that same build, that same swell within you moving towards to Elimination Chamber. And I'll never forget that promo at Barclays Center with Cody and Sami Zayn going face to face, and they're like, "Listen, I've got to finish my story, and you've got to finish yours." You know what I'm saying? Cody doing his thing, and Sami Zayn kind of reacting to the inner turmoil. I never forget the SmackDown and them doing SmackDowns when they do those shows, and they have the SmackDown beforehand in the same city, and you're kind of able to see like the prelude, the preamble, all the other stuff. That promo the night before was magic.
Real star energy.
Yes.
I think this year was about, and I really want them in 2024 to really finish this off. I mean, like Roman, yes, clearly was not the ending for that, but I think the ending for that is Sami getting a world title.
I think. Well, in terms of Sami's entire story, I think with the Honorary Uce thing, it did have its ending. Ultimately, this was a story about the power of friendship. It's the oldest trope in anime. It's ultimately, what can we do? We are better together than we are apart in this situation. It was Kevin Owens telling him like, yo, these guys are, bad dudes. And he's like, no, these are my friends. And ultimately his friends betray him in the situation. And he realizes that his friend was there all along. And it's that combination of both of them that's able to go to WrestleMania and topple the seemingly unstoppable tag team champions in that realm. And you think the story is over there, but the story wasn't over there. The story went to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and Kevin Owens, their first time there. Sami's a superstar. They've been waiting for Sami for years to come to Saudi Arabia. Kevin Owens just there. He's like chilling. He's fine. He's cool. He's part of the moment. But ultimately, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, their union, defeating Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. And that's what was the most powerful thing about that. It was ultimately at the end of the day, it shows like the sum of the parts is better than I guess the whole or something.
They beat the whole bloodline that month, right? They beat the Usos.
Yes, they beat the Usos, and then eventually after they beat Roman and Solo, because Roman and Solo's like, I remember the promo was like, we got a tag team champion match at Saudi Arabia. it's gonna be the bloodline, and the Usos think it's them, and it's like me and Solo, and I'm thinking like Roman's about to hold 8 belts. Roman's about to come
But you
and do
didn't.
the damn.
You wouldn't think that that they would have did that, but then you're right. Like the shot of Roman like this, and then KO and Sammy over over him holding the titles up was a great shot. Roman got a lot of moral shots this year. He got a lot of morale like blows this year.
The best thing about a heel run, and this is why I think most people never truly fucked with the Triple H or the Jeff Jarrett. I'm talking about those reigns of doom in 2003, 2004, was the comeuppance that came with it. I think as a heel, your comeuppance is a major part, even in that kind of like run to establish you as the big bad. You have to get your comeuppance. You have to. It's the authority getting ousted by Dolph Ziggler and Sting at that one thing. It's Mr. McMahon. You're right. It's Mr. McMahon, getting sent to. I mean, there's so many different times he got his comeuppance. It's stuff like that. For Roman and Solo, they did it 2 times in practically back-to-back months. They got their comeuppance from Sammy and KO, and then the Usos in the Tribal Combat or whatever it was. Tribal
Combat was SummerSlam. It was the battle of the Bloodline or something like that. Bloodline Civil War.
Battle of the Bloodline Civil War. There you go. But Sami Zayn,
that's Endeavor for you. That's Endeavor.
It's amazing. But the branding, the Sami Zayn story, and the way people felt about him, and the energy kind of like colliding behind him. The fact that he got to main event WrestleMania, that's crazy. Did you ever think El Generico would main event WrestleMania? This is shit that you book on a fucking forum.
I would have never
with
thought
your friends.
I would have never thought the tag team championships would have main evented WrestleMania. But again, it's like it just goes to show that they at least tried to do right by him and KO in some way, shape, or form. And like I said, I hope that they in 2024 continue this momentum. I know he's taking some time off. And I hope that after Mania is said and done, we can get a Sammy title run by this time next year. I hope that it will have had happened by then. Sammy in the bank. Sammy in the bank. Maybe
Sammy in the bank. Listen, great moment, great feels. We've got a couple of heel ones in the past. Listen, Sammy in the bank. I would love it. So that was our number 2 moment. Before we get into number 1 moment, I would like to entice our viewers at the standpoint with this thing right here. This thing right here.
To hold it closer to the camera, man. Come on, man. Merch pal.
I can't. It's the mirror thing. I can't figure it out. I'm using the wrong hand and shit. Yes, there we go.
There you go.
Merch pal. There you go. Coming soon.
Yeah,
that's all I got. Yeah, the ashow.bigcartel.com. It's still available for pre-order for the remainder of the year. Yep. So make sure that you guys lock in and get yourself one. Number 1, again, wasn't our number 1.
Remember when Michael Jackson was at the VMAs with Priscilla Presley or whatever her name was, and he said,
"Yes."
They said they thought we never met. They thought we never last, and then they kiss, and then Roy's like, "What the fuck?"
I love that.
You're flabbergasted.
I'm super. That was a deep cut because I also remember I was a kid, but I still remember everyone being like, "Ew." But still, I mean, it's weird. We're at that age where young people are not going to get that reference.
I'm not going to get it. Look it up on YouTube.
Number 1, without a doubt, the King back. He got let go, but now he back. CM Punk, fired from AEW, hired by WWE. Hell officially freezes over. I feel like I would say I don't know where to begin, but we've been covering this story for like the last fucking
yeah. I don't expect a long birth here from this. A lot of the stuff that we talked about this week, we haven't been talking about for a while. This is a weekly occurrence. We're gonna have to talk about it this week on the show.
Yeah.
But I want to get into the actual story of this, and we've gotten into it on the return episode, but obviously you're just gonna bring it back. So CM Punk at the top of this year was not on television in the AEW. He did not return to television, Meelz, until June of 2023. He was suspended and injured also, but I think those times line up, right? So
he was. I think he was. It was more injury than suspension. I think.
that
I
was a
think if it
long.
was suspension,
It was injury.
because his partners got brought back way before he did.
Yeah, exactly. So he's off TV. June comes around. He's trying to make this show work, man. He's trying to make you. You watch Collision more than I do.
He wasn't. He wasn't even on the fucking poster.
Yeah,
because they didn't know if he was really wanted to come back.
yeah, and I mean, it's a spicy situation, right? When you know you don't get along with your EVPs and you beat them up in the locker room. That's just how you don't get put in the poster. That's what happens. So All Out happens. The famous last words. Real glass. Cry me a river. Famous last words.
Let me not do it on YouTube. But go ahead.
I got a question. Do you think he knew what he was doing when he put that one up, like Roman, when he walked out?
I think he thought he was a bad BMF. I think he thought he was the man doing what he did and then coming back after the match and being like, this is what I do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, and this is why you need to respect me. And I feel like I'm getting a lack of respect here, but ultimately it's like, listen, I'm the world champion. I'm carrying this company. I'm doing all these things.
Meelz, he wasn't the real world champion, by the way. He wasn't the real one.
He was a world champion, you know. No one ever.
He was. I said he wasn't the real, but he was holding the real one, the real world championship. The real world championship.
That was the last time we saw him. Between him and having to take the tube and everything that was and the stories came up and the swell of it came up. CM Punk, within 10 minutes, the news was there. So it's not like it was this big thing. Clearly, sources were sourcing there because within 10 minutes, we heard about the fight between him and Jack Perry. Literally after the Jack Perry match happened, 7 minutes later.
The show was still going, but nobody was talking about that show no more.
I mean, they ain't got no distractions for this year. They ain't got no distractions for this year.
I know people either. But I guess it became the back and forth. I mean, even if Punk wasn't on TV, he did show up to Raw last summer when they were in Chicago. He showed up, apologized, said what's up to people. That was, to me, very strategic in his way. He was still signed to AEW. He was out there chilling with fucking Tamina, and they let him in the room. They let him in the building.
They let him in, and it wasn't until Vince told him, "You should probably let him out. You should probably."
He signed somewhere else. I'm not trying to get sued. I was around during the Attitude Era. These idiots weren't. Tell him to get the fuck out of here because it's unheard. It's unheard of. So I think I want to go to like our prediction show, Meelz, when we predicted Survivor Series, and we said we had no mention of CM Punk being there. In fact, it was he's not going to be there. It was they did this because it's Drew. It's not going to be anyone else. That is what it is. Me and you were set. In our laurels, in our thoughts, that CM Punk was not going to show up. The match ended. I said, I'm going to take the dogs out to the bathroom. Go so they can pee and poop. They went out.
You a quick lever. The bell ends and you were like, all right, I'm out. All right.
I was like, they won.
You don't wait for the credits or nothing. Do you when the credits roll at the movie, do you get up and leave too?
Yeah. Yeah, I usually if it's like I love when movies do like the animated thing before they actually do the title card. So like I'll stay and watch like Spider-Verse when they did the animated thing. I sat there like a dork and then I left after the shit hit but it was Nav and you know the Nav song "Calling Me" came on. I was like, all right, I'm gonna stay for a second. My shit. Yeah. Then I walked out, but I took him back in. I'm telling you, as soon as my foot hit the front, the table of my the coffee table and you hear the static, I said no, No, my wife and her friend were like, "What's wrong? Who is this old man that just walked out?" But
Can I tell you,
it
I was
was
like this. You can't see my arms, but I was like, it's over.
They did it.
That's the first thing that came to my mind was it's over.
Mhm.
And several meanings. But the first one means it's over for AEW for sure.
I think
um
that let's unpack it. I think that in some ways, shapes, and forms, it is because that's the final superstar that they could have had to say that we got one over you. I'm just being real now. We're at the time of this recording, nearly a month out. What 3 weeks out? 3.5, 2.5 weeks out. Who else could come in and this was a company made in his image. But the more I
my
look at it now, it don't really look like it is. Or he
But then,
didn't feel like
mind you, just the week before, they touted this big Will Ospreay signing. That's what this was like, the Chinese chest shit. You know what I'm saying? They touted this Will Ospreay signing. He's the biggest free agent in wrestling. Even WWE was trying to get him, but we got him first. And we got him months before he can actually do anything. We went to Japan. We talked to the people in Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We said we want to sign him because we know he leaving there. So we might as well let us sign him now. And we get to, you can use all our stars on Wrestle Kingdom or whatever. So there were times, oh, we won. Osprey signs a thing. AEW doesn't sign to WWE. Meanwhile, the meetings are happening.
Mm,
This Punk thing isn't just something that happened overnight. This
yeah.
Punk thing, like you said, started when he showed up backstage at that one that one time for the one time. This continued when it, in my opinion, he clearly did not care whether he was employed or not and decided to continue beating up his employees or his coworkers. Um,
Let me get out
People
this
couldn't get
contract
into
right.
shows. Yeah, people couldn't get into shows, people things. But then he had all the leverage because it's not like you got sued for beating up all your coworkers. And they
Yeah.
couldn't because they, in so many situations, has so many evidence on camera of creating a hostile work environment for this man that led him to this situation.
I think I think on both sides, that's why nothing legal happened because the discovery alone would look crazy. But
We would get things out of the closet that we would be like, wow, okay,
yes,
wow.
and it might be good that we don't hear about that now because it would not look great. We'll probably hear about it later in the future. But in terms of CM Punk and WWE, I think where we're at right now as we record has been a thumbs up. I mean, there's a big moment supposed to happen. I'm not gonna say when we're gonna record this, but there's supposed to be something big happening tonight.
It happened
And
already. Don't worry about it.
supposed to happen already. But like I think that I think it's been a thumbs up. I think that he looks rejuvenated. He looks rejuvenated. He looks like he wants to be there. I think that the main thing that I love to see is so many people bending themselves over backwards and getting bent out of shape about the fact that he's there. But we said it
The fact
before.
that he's happy, I guess. But he was
Yeah,
happy when he joined AEW, to be honest with you.
exactly. He he's a company guy. He's always been a company guy. He's gonna do what they say, bro.
I I think he's always been it for the love of wrestling and trying to improve the world of wrestling himself. And then also, like, I think he saw what happened 10 years ago and how his story ended there. And I think he always knew that the story would eventually be like, you know, either resolved or like he would have an opportunity to be like fall in love with wrestling one more time again.
Yeah,
And it got even worse when he went to AEW.
yeah. And I think him showing
But
up to show.
this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity for him to actually do that, right? Like this is the opportunity for him. And I mean, what better way? It's like almost 10 years later. This is the opportunity to close them doors. But to be honest, them doors, they're not gonna close that easily.
Mhm.
He got people that he's betrayed along the way, people that he's talked about along the way, people who are who they were then. They were small fries then, but
Yeah,
they the big dogs now.
they big dogs now. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, It's not the same company. They don't allow some of that same shit to happen. They got actual professionals there. They've got a lot of people there, Meals, that are the same people that were there when he left. Bruce Pritchard's still there, Triple H still there. Shawn Michaels has been added to the production stuff. We saw that where like there's been a lot of people that he could meet, but I think that the one thing that sticks out to me, and this would be like kind of my final point on this, is that when he was in AEW, he kept saying that he wants to help people. And I think that that company wasn't built just with the personalities there for anyone to help anyone there, and any large talent there. I think he's got the opportunity and the voice and the stature and the position to actually help a lot of people there now. Also help himself, because I mean, let's be real. But he's got a lot of cachet to help people. You're on mute.
I think this first year is going to be about CM Punk kind of reestablishing the star that is CM Punk, right? We've seen it all happen in real time. We've seen the numbers. The numbers don't lie. He was a draw for AEW. He's a draw for
Mhm.
WWE. The
Mhm.
numbers are not lying. In fact, they are numbering in ways that they have not numbered before. But
Let's be real.
uh,
Don't use that Raw number as that's an aberration at a 3-hour show. That SmackDown number
but
he
even
pulled in is
still, you're right. But even still, like, I mean, it's football season, so it is what it is. But I look at the percentage of how things change. People wanted to hear him say things.
yeah.
People tune in to hear CM Punk and what he has to say. I think this first year of CM Punk is going to be about reestablishing the star and the identity of who he is. And
Mhm.
then afterwards, we're going to get to the star building,
Mhm.
the career making, and then maybe if there's another year after that, it comes down to the star winding. Like, how do we end this career? How do we wrap this thing up? What's the most appropriate way to wrap this thing up for CM Punk? But
Mhm.
it looks like everyone's signed a multi-year deal, so he's definitely going to be there for a number of years. Anything can change between now and then, but to be honest with you, the marriage between him and WWE and the reconciliation between them, it looks great. Um, it looks great on him. Um, we hate haters. Um,
Hey,
so
do you think he's gonna act up?
I think he's liable to. I'm
You
not
don't
gonna
put
put it again.
that,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not. I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, history has shown us this is how he is in certain
yeah,
situations, and I think a lot of people are rooting for him to do that.
yeah,
Um, a lot of people in media, a lot of people in wrestling, a lot of people who felt the wrath of CM Punk is like, this guy is a fucking asshole, and just
yeah,
wait till he shows you who he really is. Um, and I think it's up to him to prove everyone wrong.
yeah. Because
Um,
ultimately, he has to, uh, he has to decide how he wants to be remembered. And I don't think that he wants to be remembered as the guy who let Jungle Boy run him out of AEW. I think he wants to go out valiantly and on his horse and not on his sword. So
it's up to Punk,
we'll see.
but
It's
we'll
completely up to
see.
him, completely up to him. But yeah, that was our number one moment.
And that is the wrap on our top 20 of 2023. This was a crazy year. Of course, you've seen this all. Tap into today's show. We're gonna do more end of the year stuff. We got of course, our two-part awards um coming up. I guess it would be next week. Or this week. It's coming up, so stay tuned. But
Yeah.
we got that for us. Of course, we got the merch that
So
you
there
can
we go.
purchase right
Your
here.
hand, your hand.
Uh, I don't. It's mirrored. I'm learning a lot of things about myself in this process. But we got that. Support the A Show RNC anywhere that you follow us on social. The A Show on RNC Radio anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And yeah, come on, stay locked in. It's a lot of stuff. 2024.
2024 is gonna be a big year. Mania in Philly, CM Punk back. What's happening? Let's do it.
thank,
Let's do it.
thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next year.